Hi everybody, welcome to Muscoot Farm. I'm Jonathan Benjamin and happy Friday the 13th. We're here inside Muscoot Farm's blacksmith shop and we're going to talk about how that played a significant role in Friday the 13th and superstitions on the farm. Alright, so as we mentioned, Friday the 13th is a day full of superstition. Those superstitions started a long time ago. And they basically came from people just not being able to understand when something bad would happen, or maybe there was a drought or insects took their whole crop that year. Instead of just using an answer that may have been the most logical, sometimes they would think that magic or superstition played a part in the reason why their crops failed that year. So they would sometimes go to places like the blacksmith because they were thought to be kind of a magical a person, because they were able to work with iron, and iron did not burn. And whenever farmers were first here, they started to think about like witches and witchcraft, and it was widely known that witches were afraid of fire. And so that's why a blacksmith was really somebody who was revered back in that society. So you can see right here one of our good luck charms that we see in society a lot. And this came from superstition. So this is a horseshoe, and there's a lot of different reasons why people think that this is good luck. It's because of its crescent shape is good luck, but also, depending on who you talk to, the horseshoe, if it's bent upwards like this, will hold all of your luck inside of here. If you see a horseshoe upside down, some people believe that it's actually spilling the luck out onto your household. Or in this case, on the forge here. So farmers would employ a blacksmith. We had one here named Jasper Booth, and they would do all kinds of things. They would make nails, they would make horseshoes, they would make hinges. Pretty much anything that you needed to be made, they could make right here on the forge. So as I mentioned, iron is not supposed to burn. It does get very, very hot, and then can be made into all kinds of things. But it was said that if you hung a horseshoe over your door, you would not be able to allow a witch inside, because obviously witches did not like fire. So farmers, when they wouldn't be able to explain something, like maybe a cow wasn't giving milk, they would ask elders, they would ask anybody who would answer them as to why maybe that happened. One of the common occurrences on a farm like this was whenever your cow would give milk and you would start to try to make butter out of it, but the butter wouldn't turn to butter, it would just kind of be heavy. So what they would do is they would think that somebody was bewitching their butter. So one of the superstitions was to take a hot poker and to poke it into the cream, and it would burn out the witch. There's also one that says that the ugliest person in the room should look at the cream and it would scare the witch out. There's also talks of a witch who could make milk come out of a cow just by squeezing a fork and milking it just like you would milk a cow. So you can see right away that farming and superstitions go hand in hand. One of the books that you can get that talks a lot about this every year is the Farmer's Almanac. The Farmer's Almanac came out in the 1700s, and people still use it today, and they use it pretty much because they're onto something. Most of these farmers can tell certain things by certain years, or one of the farmer superstitions is if there's still nuts on the tree after the leaves have fell, then that means that it's going to be a hard winter. You've probably heard red sky at night, sailors delight, red sky in the morn, sailors be warned. Those are all superstitions. So farmers, when they didn't necessarily have an answer, they looked to superstition. And that's why farming and superstition and Friday the 13th all kind of tie in together. And Friday the 13th is kind of strange as well, because why do we fear the number 13 so much? So 13 is something to look that from Western cultures has been looked at as not a complete number. So we think of our year, our calendar year, we have 12 months. And zodiac symbols, there are 12 astrological signs. The number 13 is looked at as not complete, and there also used to be a fear of the day Friday in Western culture. So you add those two together and you get Friday the 13th. And 13 is such a feared number that some businesses and hotels will just pretend like they don't even have a 13th floor. You'll go from 12 to 14, but you really know that the 14th floor is the 13th floor. And there is a phobia of both Friday the 13th and the number 13. That's how serious this is. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the farming and all kinds of superstitions today. And I also wanted to show you this. So we talked about blacksmithing a little bit. This is what's called a forge. And right now I have coal in here, and coal burns hotter than, let's say, paper or wood. So it allows to get these pieces of iron very, very hot. And you have to be careful because of the way that we manufacture metal today. You can actually burn it. I know I said earlier that you can't, but you can if you get this too hot. So basically what I'm going to do is take some of the metal that I have in here, and we're going to place it onto the anvil in a second. But the next piece that I want to talk about is this right here. And this is basically a blower that blows air into where the forge is. And we know that things that fire needs to succeed is a heat source, heat itself, and oxygen. And that's what I'm doing. I'm putting oxygen into this. If I was to take this metal out and go really, really quickly, then you would see a lot of fire going there, and I could get this going really, really hot. So one of the things that I want to make sure I do is, because this is so hot, I'm going to put my gloves on, and then I'm going to take out one of these pieces here and show you this. Now this is the anvil. This is a hammer. So I'm going to try to put a bend in this, and you can bend this because it is so hot. And then I'm going to just kind of kick this back to me a little bit. And you can see that I made this bend in here. And if I wanted to, I can even try to make a little bit of a loop here. If I was to do this with cold metal, it would not bend at all, and I would actually probably hurt my hand from bending that metal. So if this gets cool, too cool, I can always put it right back into the fire, and then it'll heat right back up. So you can see right here, I almost made a complete circle, and it's very, very hot still. So what I'll do is I'll probably put this back in the fire and let that get hot again so I can go. Again, one of the cool things about an anvil is what you just saw here. You saw me hitting right here. This part of the anvil is called the horn of the anvil, and it looks exactly like a horn. So what this will do is allow me to bend things over this in a more rounded way than this that I just did, which is like a squared piece here. So the anvil and the hammer were definitely the blacksmith's livelihood. They would have made all kinds of things for the farmer, anything from nails, hinges, horseshoes for the horses, any kind of tool that they needed, silverware, and so that's why the blacksmith was such a revered part of the farm. All right, so I've got this really going. You can see how hot this is. It's orange, and so now I'm going to, like I mentioned, use the horn here, and I'm able to bend this over, and I can even go further, but you'll see, because this part here isn't so hot, it'll only really let me bend it where it is the hottest. So if you think about any time that you wanted a hook or something to hang your coat off of or anything like that, these are the things that blacksmiths would have been making. And if you, let's say that this needed to be wider, I just kind of put it back on there, and I can use this horn and it'll open it up a little bit for me. You're able to do all kinds of things with this. You can bend metal, you can twist it, you can make pretty much anything that you can imagine out of it, and all just by heating it and hammering it. And it's a lot like clay, even though it's hard. What you can do with clay is if you build something and maybe you mess up, you can just kind of undo it. Well, thanks for joining us today. I hope you learned something about Friday the 13th or superstitions, or maybe even a little bit about blacksmithing. So if you're down on your luck, maybe you'll go to a blacksmith and get you one of these. We hope you stay safe out there, and thanks for joining us.